But I think that just kind of goes back to the core values of like protecting the people that spend their time working for you, treat them like human beings and treat them well. Give them, even if they're contractors, like give them time off when they're sick, pay them for, like whatever.
That was Jay Aigner, the founder of JDAQA, full service software quality assurance company. This is a great podcast. It was one of the first podcasts that I did, and I'm saving it to now because it was really something special, and now is the right time to release it. Enjoy.
About themselves, right? I mean, it's just common knowledge. Everybody loves to talk. So
Speaking of talking about themselves, could
yes.
you give us maybe a little bit about the Jay story? How did you come up? How did you arrive? How did you get to the point where we're sitting here talking?
I'll try to do my best condensed version. I grew up in Virginia in the middle of nowhere. One stoplight town, still has one stoplight. And I wasn't allowed to be bored as a kid. Like my mom would, like, we lived on like 7 acres. We had horses and all sorts of crazy stuff, like chickens and pheasants and stuff. Like you couldn't be bored, right? So
Oh,
it was
wow.
like you would have work to do if you were not doing something. So I think that instilled very early in my life to have hobbies and things to do and enjoy being outside. And like that is who I am today. I very much am not just like a business owner. I'm like first and foremost a dad. But I went to college for a little bit in VCU. Realized I did not want to go to traditional college. It kind of felt like 13th grade. I was like, this is college. This is not what I thought it was going to be. Left there and went down to Florida to Full Sail to make video games. So I went through college there. Had my call my college experiment, which is now my 18-year-old son, in the middle of all that. And then graduated with my bachelor's in computer science, moved up here for a job testing video games. Megatouch, we used to make the touchscreen bar games, the photo hunt and all those games. Used to sit on the bar top. Worked for them for a few years, and then had met my wife, had another son with her. At that point I was like making 50 grand a year, and she's like, it's great that you're like making video games, but like we probably need to level our game up here a little bit. So I left there, got a job offer to work for a big ass healthcare company, which was like brilliantly eye-opening for me, that I'd never want to be in a big company like that again in my life. It was like a death march in and out of there every day, just like people going to their cubes and like just waiting to see what I felt like. It felt like you were like in school again, like you were like waiting to get out of there, and it was just like you didn't matter, like nothing you did unless you screwed up like really mattered. Like so you're just there. And like I remember the boss there telling me about like this career track through I'm like, what the hell, like this is awful, like I gotta do this to get to this level and this, and you're gonna be like, it's like not for me. I got bailed out. Got a call at my desk one day. I didn't even know how to phone in my cube. I had no idea. And it rang one day, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" And I picked it up, and this guy was a headhunter, Mike Booty, who actually is in Philly. He's like a world famous headhunter. Connected me with Zonoff, which was bought by Ring, which was then bought by Amazon. I jumped in the startup world doing QA. My wife was an overnight nurse at the time, and like we had another kid, so I was like trying to get her out of doing that. So I picked up, I applied for Uber. I say this on all the podcasts I'm on just because it's a great story. I applied for Uber, but my license was from Virginia, and I never got it switched over, and you can't do that with Uber. So basically I got turned down by Uber. I couldn't drive for Uber or Lyft. Like either one of them let me, so I couldn't even like make extra money with this new cool thing that everybody was doing. So I started looking like,
Well, how did you feel at that point when you were essentially turned down by?
I mean, it was just another, not to be too, no pun intended, but it was just a bump in the road. It wasn't, I don't know. It's not, nothing is, I mean, dude, I had a kid when I was like 19 in college, and I was like, I'm going to figure it out. So like, it's never been a like rollover situation I've had. Like, it's always like, okay, now what? So I was looking online for jobs, like for overnight jobs, like trying to figure out how do I work in the daytime and at night and like do all this stuff together. And I found Upwork, which is crazy. It's like a freelance website, and I was like, I do QA. They're like looking for QA people in here. This is great. I can do this in my spare time. And so I started picking up jobs, and then I had 2, and then I had 3, and then I had 4, and it was just like getting to be a lot. I still had my full 9 to 5 job. Um, and then one day, the company I was interviewing with didn't care if it was me or not. They're like, we just need somebody. I'm like, this is it. This is the one I've been looking for, because I was looking for somebody to bring in somebody else. So I was like, I have too much work. I have a problem saying no to money. What do I do? And I reached out to some people I used to work with at Megatouch. Actually, my old boss ended up working for me at some of these other jobs that I did.
Oh, wow.
Um, and I remember very clearly like running up and down the stairs to my house, like telling my wife, like, I need a company name. Like, just tell me what to put on this paper, because like I don't even know what to put on it. Like, I just gotta say I'm somebody so like I can get this contract. And I was like, oh my God, they're gonna pay me 50 an hour. I'm only gonna have to pay this guy 25 an hour. I get to me $25 an hour for doing nothing. Like that little like concept was what pushed me like beyond anything ever. I was like, so you're telling me that like they're gonna pay me 50, and I gotta pay this guy 25, and I get 25 an hour for doing nothing for every hour he works, like every single one. And that was the start, man. And after that, it would just became like, okay, how do I get another one of those? How do I get another one of those? And then just kind of grew it, over the years. Still kept my 9 to 5 job. Um,
So this was sort of like a side hustle.
it was a side hustle forever, man. We were doing like $1 million a year in revenue with it as a side hustle. It was great. Um,
Wow.
but you know, um, I left the place I was working at. I did it for about 3 or 4 months full time with my business, and then I got invited. I got an offer to work for one of the companies that was one of our clients as a chief product development officer for a fintech company. I was like, sure, like I'll go do that. In hindsight, I probably would have passed over that, but I learned a lot there, and it was a great time. So I'm glad I did it. But then after that, I guess a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I left there, um, and was just like, okay, I can't work for anybody ever again. Like, I just have to do this full time. And so I just kind of turned the focus to the business and like how to run a business, because it had all been up through Upwork. It's like you just get business. Like, it's very transactional on Upwork. Like, you get somebody says, hey, I need QA, and I go, hey, I do QA, and they're like, cool, here's some money, and like that's the end of it. Like, you just do it, and it's like, but that's not the real world. um, and actually, when the Ukraine war happened, when they cut off every single Russian business and contractor, not that I did any business over there, but it really kind of like hit me like, oh, I should probably not just be getting business from Upwork. Like, I have enough people now. We have like, I think back then we had 30 or 40 people.
So when was this starting to click? Was this, you said pre-pandemic, so was this like 2019 that things started really?
2019 it really started to kind of turn on. I mean, I had a single, sole proprietorship, got the full LLC, I think back in 2019, 2020. But like, I felt like I had been running it for a while. So it wasn't like I just like started. I mean, I had like 15, 20, maybe 30 people working for me back then.
Wow.
Today we have 60. And it's like, I basically just kind of made the switch and started to learn how to run a business, traditional style. Like, what's a lead magnet? What's a lead funnel? Like, how do you get people in the door? How do you get discovery calls? Like, how do you reach out to people, and how do you get new business? Who is my customer, right? Which is part of the reason why I think I ended up starting my podcast, The First Customer, because like I didn't know that for the longest time. And as soon as I figured it out, I was like, bing, like that's how you run a business, is who you're selling to, and what their problems are, and what their all their pain points, and you can sell them, and they'll buy your stuff. And it's like kind of very straightforward once you figure out who your customer is. All the questions kind of fall away. So yeah, I've been doing that. That's the very long-winded version of like kind of where we started, where we are now. We've got a big team in the Philippines, got a big team in the United States, work with, I don't know, 20, 30 long-term clients. And we handle all their QA for them. And now my job is really just sales and marketing and biz dev stuff. Just find new customers and letting my incredible team do much better than I would ever do at what their jobs are.
That's a pretty amazing story, to be honest with you. And that the First Customer podcast, amazing.
Thanks, man.
You were
Appreciate that.
I think I said this earlier. You're super prolific. I can barely start one, and then I see like 3 or 4 others are coming up, and it's always great information.
I appreciate
I love
that.
the podcast.
I really do.
I want to back up a little bit because a couple things you said earlier. You mentioned, that you're a father and you got a couple kids. And one of the reasons I really, really want to have you here is because I think a little while back you shared a story when I believe you were in Canada. I think was it on Facebook or something?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was on LinkedIn. Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was on
yeah,
LinkedIn. Sorry. Yeah. You were talking about you were at a conference and you were having a struggle getting back, and there was a specific reason why you really, really wanted to get back home. Can you
yes.
share that story?
I can. I have 5 kids. I have one more coming in February, so I'll have 3 boys and 3 girls at that point.
Wow, congrats.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's just another one to the mix, right? It's just like once you have that many, it's you can't even be a bunch of cats. No, so I went to Collision Conference in Toronto. I based the whole trip around the fact that my daughter's birthday was at the end of June. I had to be back. I only stayed there for a couple days. And then when I was coming back, there was a big storm on the East Coast back, summertime, and like everything was canceled. There was no planes, no trains, literally no rental cars, no anything. The Ubers wouldn't even take you across the line because nobody had their U.S. visa, and everything got canceled. And there's also like literally like 30,000 people in Toronto that week trying to get home. So like there was literally no way out. Um, so I called a bunch of Ubers and like was like kept having to cancel them because like I can't get you across the border, can't get. And then one guy was like, I'll take you to uh I'll take you to Niagara Falls and you can walk across the border. Uh and I was like, that's the craziest shit I've ever heard. No. And then like I kept going through Ubers and Ubers, and then I finally was like, I'll just do that, whatever. So I got one guy to take me there. It was like a 2 hour ride from Toronto to Niagara Falls. Um, got out, like looked at the Canadian side because it is better over there for anybody who's ever been to Niagara Falls. There is a better side. It is
I think I lost you.
cool, site. Um, ended up getting across through customs, got to the Buffalo airport, which I had a car rented at, and I got there and there was like 30 other people in line, no cars available. It's like that's fantastic. It was like 10 o'clock at night. The next day was my daughter's birthday. So I was freaking out, like, I guess gotta go. I gotta figure out how to get out of here. So I stayed at the Buffalo Airport hotel, which I would not recommend. And then the next morning, I was looking for rental cars everywhere. I was talking to my wife. She's like, "You got," she's like, "Maybe you just you'll come out home the next day." Trains were like 14 hours because there were these weird connections to get home.
Yeah.
Um, and then like somebody made the joke about, or I made the joke to my wife about the John Candy. I was like, I wish I could just like hop in a U-Haul and come home like on Home Alone. And I was
Yeah.
like, wait, I was like, that's crazy. There's no way, right? Like I can't. So like I looked at U-Haul, nothing available. Looked at Penske, which was actually I think the truck that was on Home Alone. They had one truck available in downtown Buffalo. I called the place. She's like, yes, it's here. Took an Uber to that place. Got in the 12-foot truck. Took my picture outside with my suitcase, and then drove 6.5 hours home and made it home for my daughter's first birthday. So it was a great. I knew when it was happening, it was going to be a great story. I was like, this is kind of like, I feel like who I am is like very much like, doesn't really matter. I'm going to get there. And I got there and we did her birthday and it was great. And she'll never remember, but I can tell you who will. My wife. She will remember that I made it. Remember that I made it, and she'll definitely would have remembered if I didn't make it. So no, I it was a cool thing to go through, even though it was a little stressful.
Thank you for sharing that. You just said something. I feel like who I am.
Yeah,
What does
yeah,
that mean?
that's who I am, man. I mean, it goes back to the college thing, right? It's just like it's the same way I run the business. Like I don't understand like rolling over. Like there's no other. I have too many people depending on me, right? Like since an early age, like I can't. Maybe that's because I had a kid when I was 19. Like I couldn't not figure it out for him, and I couldn't not figure it out for my daughter, and I couldn't. It's like it's just not an option, and
Yeah.
it's just having that foundation is very helpful. I think that no matter what, like I mean, look, we're all humans, and like we beat ourselves up for certain things, but like if you know that like you've done what you're supposed to do, then like there's no That's it. You know when you have tried, and you know when you haven't tried. Even nobody else knows. Like, when you haven't tried. You know when you could have like made something work and you chose not to because it was easier not to. But like, so I think just that, um, that trip I feel like was very much who I am as a person. Just like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's things are gonna break and things are not gonna work and there'll be no trains and planes. But like, you'll get there. So that's typically how I try to roll.
No, I appreciate that story, and that's one of the reasons that I felt this would be a really good discussion, because to me that was evidence of sort of your core values in action.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if do you consciously think about core values, or is that something that you ever think about? Or yeah, like if I asked you, can you tell me what your core values are? Would you be able to sort of rattle them off, or is that something that's sort of not part of the consciousness that you have?
It kind of comes and goes. Um, I think a lot of people, and specifically me, go through like cycles of self improvement where I'm like very conscious of it and like very, um, active in my growth as a person. And then like I try to enjoy life for a bit, and then like I'll kind of get back to it, and I'll be like, oh yeah, like these are all the things that I want. So I mean, I literally in my phone I have a list. I haven't looked at it in probably a year and a half, but like I know what some of those things are, and they're just the result of like, you know, dependability is on there. That's one of my biggest things. And I feel like that is like a huge core value of mine. And I think people are very, people like to hold other people to their standards, which I don't
Mhm.
think is fair, but it's just human nature. And that's something that I expect from people who are like in my, inner circle, in my group, is like dependability is like very core. Like, I'm going to do that for you, whatever needs to happen, like I will make it happen for you. I'll be dependable. And I kind of expect that reciprocation. And like if that doesn't happen, then it's like, I'm hurt, number one. And then two, it's like I don't expect that from you going forward. You're just not as close in the circle as you were. Maybe you're still in it, but maybe you're in the second or third, kind of
Right.
level out. So yeah, again, very long-winded answer, but um I do have a list of things, and I think it's, it changes. It changes. It's like, you have some things that are very important to you, but you learn new things and you add new things to that list, and certain things come up and down, how important things are. But yeah, I certainly have a pretty hefty list. I could probably find it on my phone, but um and it was probably after reading some self-help book that I was like, oh yeah, I need to make a list of these things because that's what this book says to do.
Do you ever share the list with anybody?
Mm, I think I've talked to my wife about it. I don't think there's no, not really. There's no, there's no forum for this that I feel like is appropriate for me to list out. Maybe the show. But other than that,
Yeah.
like I don't, maybe that's your angle. I don't, and like I almost want to try to like, can I look at it? It's in here somewhere.
Yeah,
I know I
absolutely.
have it. I bet if I search by dependability, I bet it'll come up because, uh, sorry, I don't. This is probably not the most exciting
No, no, actually, we're building
airtime.
anticipation, Jay.
Oh, good. Then I'll take my sweet time. Oh yeah. Okay. So
I'd
yeah,
love to hear it if you're willing to share.
dependability is number one, and loyalty is number two. And these may not be in an actual order of whatever, but
Yep.
fairness, respect, courage, maturity, family, friendship, service, growth, leadership, resolution, nurturing, patience, reflection, progress, change, and improvement. That's a big list of things, but I think
That's
that's
great.
I think that's pretty accurate still. Like, actually, after seeing that, for when did I write this? I don't this was in December of 2022. So about a year.
Wow.
So that's my list. And I feel, like I said, I don't look at it, but I kind of know what they are.
That's pretty amazing.
Thanks, man. Do you have a list?
Yeah, I do. So for me, it's freedom, integrity, creativity, presence, and then innovation and service. So those are the ones that I have, and I have them up on my website. And then I even go deeper. I talk about a little bit, so some of the actions behind them. What do they mean? What are the principles behind that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not it's not perfect. Like I can't say that I live up to the highest standards of that I set for myself all the time. But just like you said, it's part of life. You know, you have your ups, your downs. But I think for me, in times of conflict or stress, or if I'm struggling with something, I know if I always go back to those values, I'm usually going to get the right answer.
Do you feel like you had to get those through experience, like to even appreciate having a list?
Yeah, yeah. And this is great. I think I don't know whose podcast we're on
Are you
now.
on my podcast now? Welcome to the first customer.
No, this is perfect. So
I'm just curious.
no, and this is excellent. So what I will share with you is that I don't think I really had consciousness of those until, and this is going to sound really bad, but probably until I hit my 40s.
Hmm.
And I think what was happening is I was living them unconsciously, because the values, what I've known from research and everything else, is that they're with you all the time, whether you realize it or not. They drive your decisions, whether you know it or not. And when you've
Hmm.
got conflict and issue, it's probably because something is at conflict with a core value. But a
Yep.
lot of the times, people that are not conscious of these things, they deal with the emotion, the endpoint. They don't talk about or understand the root cause. So that's
Agree.
why, another reason why I love doing this, because to you, you seem to have awareness, which is key, about those values. You have them in your phone,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So from my perspective, that is amazing. And when I heard that story on LinkedIn, and when we've talked before, sometimes you connect with a person, you can just tell, right? You can
Yep.
just have a feeling. And you were a guy I knew that had something like, before this, I didn't ask you if you had them written out. I didn't ask you if you had it on your phone, right? It just sort
Yeah.
of came up. So for
Yeah.
me, this is incredibly enriching, because somebody who has the effort that you have, you built your business, your family is incredibly important. And to me, it's like, well, how does he utilize that? Not just in his personal life. How does this manifest for Jay at JDAQA? What does that
Hmm.
mean for you now? And what does that mean for your business?
Yeah. Um, it's a really good question, and it's so ridiculously timely. I literally just told my CIO yesterday. I was like, let's sync up and talk about our kind of our core values and
Really?
mission statement. Yeah, no, we have a meeting Friday tomorrow to talk about it. And
Wow,
then it
this is
wasn't
very
because this
timely.
very timely. Um, the reason why I asked about the experience thing is because I think you need that. Like you need, and you being 40, like I mean, dude, there's people that never get them. It's like who fucking
Well,
cares
I'm
when you get
50
them? Like,
now. I'll be
or
51 in
what,
a couple of weeks. So yeah.
whatever. Dude. Well, it doesn't matter, right? It's like you have them. Some people don't even the awareness piece, like you said, like nobody's even aware of them. I would say 99% of the people don't even think about it. They I hate
Exactly.
something, and I think you hit on a very key point there. It's probably a rub on your core value somewhere, something, your mother-in-law is pissing you off. It's not because she said whatever she said. It's because it's going back to something that is conflicting with one of your
Yeah,
tenets
I'll
of
share a
life.
really quick story that happened
Sure.
to me right after college, and I was working for one of these hoity-toity accounting firms. Right now, it's
Hmm.
PwC, and there was they do this like month-long training. And one of the things they tell you is never, what they say, quote unquote, eat hours. So
Hmm.
eating hours is you do a bunch of work, but you don't record it on your timesheet and it doesn't get billed to the client, right? So you're just doing excess hours. And why does that happen? Because managers and partners are usually held accountable for their budgets. So
Hmm.
if you're an audit and they say, we want you to audit the cash section of this balance sheet and it takes 8 hours, you're supposed to do that within 8 hours. And if you don't, you just record your total number of hours, 10, 12, whatever it is, and then you bill the client, so on and so forth.
Hmm.
But you're never supposed to work 10 to 12 hours and only record the 8,
Right.
because maybe there's a problem with the budget process, maybe there was a client issue that was really, so you just never do that. Well, I ran into one of my first engagements, this manager, the senior manager, who was very well respected in the firm, always had incredible budgets, ran his jobs great. He was sort of like one of these, rising sort of professionals.
Hmm.
And I got into engagement with him. And I did a couple of, the balance sheets audits, and my numbers, my hours were not in accordance with his budget. They were higher. just what it was, what it was. And then he came back to me and he said, "Hey, listen, I know you took about 13 hours on this, but we only have budgeted 8. Can you just mark down 8 in your timesheet and submit?" I was like, I really, really struggled with that. I went home that night. I didn't feel good because the whole month they drilled into you, don't eat hours, don't eat hours, don't eat
Mhm.
hours. And then I have this guy who's super respected and liked telling me, eat hours.
Right.
So I didn't submit anything. And then he's asking me about it. And then finally, I went to one of the guys who was one of the instructors. I said, he's asking me to do this. And he said, "Well, what you can do is, why don't you try talking to him and seeing what's going on?" So I said, "Okay." So I spoke with him, and he says, "Well, maybe you just took longer because you're new at this, and blah 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 blah." And he says, "Well, just put the 8 hours; it'll be fine." And I couldn't do it. I was getting stomach, I was getting headaches. It was really bothering me because my parents were both born in Poland. I'm one of the, I was one of the first kids to graduate here. It was a very prestigious job. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired
Mm-hmm.
because of this. And I was, super stressed out. I went back to that guy and I said, he just told me to do that. And he's like, listen, you can do what he says, or you can stick with your guns. It's up to you. And he wasn't like, I'm going to do anything. So then I basically told the guy, listen, I'm only going to record these hours. He got super pissed off. It was an issue. And then it started to come up. And then I mentioned to people, I said, this is, if you don't want me to work anymore, if you don't want me on any of these jobs, that's fine. But these are the hours that I did. Well, it turns out a couple months after that, he left the firm for other opportunities. And what I found out is that people sort of heard about this. Then everybody started to talk about the fact that they were eating hours for him. So
Hmm.
he was making himself look great by sort of really beating on people. And
Right.
what I found out was that was my value of integrity rubbing up against this guy telling me to do something that was
Right.
wrong. I couldn't sit with it. It just wouldn't reconcile because it
Hmm.
was something deep within me that said, you can't do that.
Right.
You could, but you won't be able to sort of, you know, stomach what's going on there. And
Hmm.
that sat with me for many years. And like I said, it wasn't until my 40s when I started unpacking all these things that I really realized that was a core value that was really in conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I knew any of those experiences, I need to look at the root cause, not just the end emotion.
That's
So
great. It's a
that's
great,
how it started for me. It's probably
a
longer than I
great
should have.
story. No, it's a great story. But I think it's applicable to like the question about the business. It's like it takes you time to unpack and establish your core values, like you just said. Um, and I think the same thing is true for a business, right? And especially if you like, it's interesting that you had that experience at a business because most of the time, at least when I was in my younger days, you hear those corporate like values and you're just like they don't mean anything. They just like, come on, man. Like I gotta like, it's just, they're just nothing.
Words on
But
a wall.
they're literally nothing to you. But it took me a long time to realize like, as in life, if your business has those values that you can kind of fall back on, it's the same thing. It's the same. I mean, we had a client a couple months ago that like um we were on a discovery call and like the guy, the owner was like talking down to one of his people like on the call, and I was like, that's not cool, man. Like it's not. And they wanted to work with us and they sent us a proposal and whatever, and I was like, I just told my team, I was like, we can't work with these guys. Like, there's no way. Like, and it came up again recently with another client, and it all kind of just goes back to why I think I wanted to establish these values, which is like one of our biggest values that I found because another client years ago was like being really aggressive and like not cool to the people in our team that were working there. And I had to jump in and like it got heated and it was like, I probably didn't handle it the best way, but like it established for me that part of our job as C levels at my company is to protect the people that work for us. Right? Like we work with a bunch of offshore people. It's very easy for people to like talk down to them or like, be, you know, make veiled, you know, I'm not gonna say racist, but like veiled like
Yeah.
comments about like, their quality of work because of, where they're from or because who they are or whatever. And it's like, part of what we do is to pay our folks well that are onshore or offshore because they don't have to work for us, right? They can work anywhere in the world. They don't have to work for me. I'm blessed to have anybody at all work for me.
Yeah.
I don't take any of these people for. I mean, they lucky every day, right? I wake up and think there's people that actually want to work with me. Um, but I think that just kind of goes back to the core values of like protecting the people that spend their time working for you, treat them like human beings and treat them well. Give them, even if they're contractors, like give them time off when they're sick, pay them for, like whatever. Like one of our really she's a VA for us, right? She's a virtual assistant, which I hate that phrase, by the way. It's like such a dated like 90s like
Yeah.
gross phrase, like virtual assistant. She's like so much more than that. But she had some problems with her husband with the hospital, and like we wanted to make sure like we sent her meals and like make sure, like I just want to take care of the people that work for us because it's like the only thing besides money, which is great, but like you got to treat people like human beings. And I think that's just a core of what we are. Like we want to make sure that people know that we appreciate their time because they could be doing anything, they could work anywhere. So anyway, yeah, there's a lot of core values we have that we need to kind of lay out, but it's
Well,
certainly going to start with
it's
that.
important. I can't thank you enough for sharing that because it is important, especially from a business perspective. And you were talking about the loyalty, respect, courage, and all these things that are on your phone.
Yeah.
But just imagine the power that that's going to have when you share that in your meeting with your
Yeah.
COO, and then you share that with those that you work with,
Yep.
because they may see that, but they will really connect to that, and it may inspire them to understand who they are. Because then you have what we call values congruence, and when you have that, that's where the magic happens, Jay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yep.
not that everybody's going to have the exact same value as you, but if they're sort of in that neighborhood, that's where magic happens. And there's
Yeah.
plenty of research out there to say that when people are in touch with their core values, it has absolute benefits, business
Yeah.
benefits for sure.
No,
So
I agree.
you're on the right path.
Getting there, figuring it out. I'm gonna grow up one day. One
I
day.
think you can do more of that. And by the way, when you said you're
Figure it out.
you're you're surprised that people want to work with you, I think there's a reason why people want to work with you. And I
No,
think
thank you.
I think you know that.
Too kind. You're too kind. I just try to treat people nice, man. Try to treat people like people.
Well, that's
It's amazing how far that goes, right? It's just like treating people like other human beings, like real human beings.
that that
Good thing
is
to do.
definitely important. So I want to switch maybe a gear a little bit here,
Sure.
but can you tell me about some of the heroes that you've had, either growing up or now? Who are they?
Man, who were my heroes? Oh,
Do we have to go back to the phone?
no, I don't have them on my phone. I've never really thought about that. Um, hmm, my heroes. I mean, my gut reaction is to say like I don't have any. Like, I mean, I respect people, but I don't really like fanboy out over many people, which is probably a problem too, because I don't, there's a
Or
lot of,
what about somebody that may inspire you? Somebody that gives you inspiration?
yeah, I mean, now it's my wife and my kids, like for sure. But like outside of that group, I mean, there's plenty of people that I look up to, I would say, but I don't know that I would call them a hero. But I have a lot of agency owner friends that I've made over the years just by doing business together and doing whatever that I really, you know, I definitely believe the whole like closest five people thing is like who you are. Um, so I try really hard to keep successful people in that network. And if I meet somebody that I'm really impressed with, like I try to set up a monthly meeting with them. I have monthly meetings with like five or six, I guess like seven now, really cool, smart agency owners or business owners that are doing better than I am, or is, whatever. Um, Alex Tuck runs a consulting firm called Tuck Consulting that I like. He is like one of my uh he's a he's a peer of mine, but also like I respect him and his take on things a lot more than I would like Alex Hormozy or like any of these like, business guru guys. Like I don't really watch that stuff or like listen to that. So just people that are out like Chris Sarah, I would say, just watching him kind of navigate a very community thinking business and like how he like goes to city hall to like fight for wages and stuff like that's really cool to me. um yeah, I think it would just be like business owner. I mean, other than that, like I mean, you've got your standard here Tesla and like the Einsteins of the world and just like the cool historical, the Wright brothers I think are like really, it was a really cool story with the brothers and how they were kind of ahead of their time and what they did. But yeah, sports figures. When I was a kid, I was a the Richmond Braves were actually the team that we grew up watching. So like Chipper Jones and all those guys came through Richmond, Virginia, and I was,
Is it
quasi.
their farm team or?
It was their AAA farm
Yeah.
team. Yes, they had like Javi Lopez and Andrew Jones and like all the kind of star Tom Glavine, Greg Maddox, like not Greg Maddox, John Smoltz, like a bunch of those guys came through there. Um, so I was a Braves fan when I was a kid, but they were in like Atlanta, so like I didn't really, it wasn't. Then I moved up here probably 2 decades ago, and I'm like, oh, they have everything. They have all the teams. Now I'm like, this is great. Like we don't. There's no professional sports teams in Virginia, so it's like a very weird place to grow up sports wise. But I love that kind of stuff when I was a kid. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have any. Wouldn't call anybody a hero. Um, I
No,
just respect a lot of people, and I get inspired by certain folks for sure.
that's cool. Um, we're gonna wrap up be here a couple minutes, but what would be one or two takeaways that you would give somebody as it relates to leadership, your leadership style, and maybe somebody trying to figure out their leadership style?
Um, yeah, I think you just have to be authentic. Like you should definitely improve things that you need to work on. I don't know. I get like if you're gonna like, there's people who own businesses and who like lead organizations who are not leaders, in my opinion. Right? There's people who can they have money, they get money, they start a business, they do whatever. Maybe the business is even successful. Like that doesn't mean that that person is a leader. So my first thought was like, what would I tell those type of people? Like those are different. Like they're not leaders. Like you can't like fix people who are um conceited or like not team oriented or whatever. Like you have to kind of be a leader, I guess, to really earn that title. But um if you want to be a leader or if you are a leader in your organization, you want to be better. um I think it's all about delegation. It's all about trusting people, handing off stuff to people, and like being confident that they're going to do a better job than you did. And like you have to be okay if they screw up. And here's the answer that I probably should have said. The only person, the only person that any problem should ever go back to in your organization, no matter what, is you. There is no one else. It doesn't matter if somebody stole money from you. It doesn't matter if somebody didn't do their job. It doesn't matter if a client screws up. All of those things are for something you did along the way to get in that situation, right? Like there's no finger pointing. Never. Doesn't matter. Like I made a mistake bringing the wrong person on. I made the mistake of not understanding what type of client this was going to be. I made the mistake of not paying enough attention. Like there's no room for that. Like as soon as you start pointing fingers, it's like a virus. Like as soon as you start handing off that thought that people should deflect responsibility or that people should look for somebody else to blame, like that is contagious. It's an awful thing. It shows like weak-mindedness, in my opinion. Like if you can't take the fact that everything goes back to you as the leader, I mean, who else would it go back to? You're leading, right? You're the one up front. Like you're the one that like is like, if you go off a cliff, it's because of you. If you win, it's because of you. if you lose, it's because you. It's like it's got to go back to you. So I think, accountability and dependability, back to my core values.
Isn't that
Are the
interesting? It
big
goes right back to your core values.
everything goes back to. Could you imagine that? You should start a podcast about that.
Hey Jay, I want to let people know the First Customer Podcast. It's an amazing podcast. You guys need to go check it out wherever you get your podcast information from. The First Customer. By the way, the graphic artwork is amazing. Love it.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like that. Some people don't like that. I had one guy who
No,
did not like.
it's
I
pretty
love.
cool.
Thank you. I love the theme.
If people wanted to reach out and touch base and either just get some of your thoughts on leadership, or if they want to know more about JDAQA in terms of the work that you do, or they want to get some sort of inspiration from you, what's the best way that people can get in touch with you?
LinkedIn, hit me up. Jay Aigner, Aigner, J at JDAQA.com, or just check me out at JDAQA.com if you need anything to do with quality assurance. But that and the packed events, Philly events, I'm around the tech scene. I'm sure you'll see me at somewhere, just come up and say hello.
Very cool. We'll add that to the show notes. And I'm going to ask you a favor. I know you mentioned you're going to talk to your COO and talk about values and things of that nature. I'm hoping maybe in 6 months or so I can touch base and see how that went and what the impact was to your business. I'd love to hear that.
Absolutely. Would love to.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Tom, you're the best. Thank you, brother. Have to appreciate me on, man. Thank you.
You got it.